Skip it up and that up. So before I get into ripping SteamOS and Steam machines and the whole Steam machine concept, a new one, I do have a confession. I am absolutely fascinated with the Steam machines. Not due to SteamOS. From what I've heard anyway, I should say. I'm eventually going to try SteamOS. I've heard that SteamOS is a big pile of shit. But these very small form factor, capable gaming PCs blow my mind. It's absolutely amazing the hardware that they pack into these little computers. Like, for example, I'm still testing out and I'm going to review the Zotac Magnus EN970. I've been playing Star Wars Battlefront on it, and it runs games amazing. It actually has, I still have to find it out, it either has a GTX 970M in it, which is very similar to a NVIDIA GeForce GTX 960, or it has an OEM GeForce GTX 960 that has 3 gigs of RAM on it. So I'll find that out for the review. But even if it is a 970M, the mobile chip, it's very similar in performance to the 960. But whatever the case may be, I'm going off on a tangent here. It's amazing. This machine that looks like it could be a snack for the Xbox One, that's how much smaller that is, outperforms Microsoft's 8th gen console. But that's besides the point. I think the little computers are amazing. But SteamOS, the whole Steam machine concept, not so much. And the whole thing about Linux, Linux-based operating system, which SteamOS is, running games better than Windows will, well, Ars Technica has some really bad news for you. They ran some benchmarks of games on SteamOS and ran the games with the same settings in a Windows environment, and the results were, well, let me just say it, pretty fucking alarming. Here, take a look. So here is the test rig that Ars Technica used. It's nothing special. The CPU is a dual-core Pentium. The GPU, the graphics card, is a Zotac GeForce GTX 660. 8 gigs of RAM, yada, yada, yada. You can read the rest of the specs right there. It's a very, I wouldn't even say mid-range gaming rig. I would say entry-level gaming rig. But I understand why they want to do it. This is like the target kind of hardware you would want to use SteamOS on. And like I said, what they did is they ran multiple games both in the Windows environment and SteamOS environment and compared how they performed. And let's take a look at some of the games they actually tested. So they took a look at Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, both on SteamOS and Windows 10. And look at the difference in frame rate between SteamOS and Windows 10. At the lowest setting, there's over a 30 frame per second advantage if you play the game in Windows 10. It only runs at 61 frames per second in SteamOS 2.0, and in Windows 10 it runs at 95.5 frames per second. That's over a 30 FPS difference. And even when you go up to Ultra, it's the same thing. It's almost a 20 FPS difference, again, favoring Windows 10. What is the point of SteamOS again? Now they also tried out Metro Last Light Redux at 2560 by 1600. Kind of an odd resolution to try out with that very paltry rig they're doing these benchmarks on. But whatever, it still proves their point. So at minimum settings, you're still getting over a 10 frame per second difference favoring Windows 10. It's running at 50.5 frames per second. Only runs at 40 frames per second on SteamOS 2.0. And maximum settings, which I expect at the high resolution, it runs at like a slideshow on both operating systems. But you're getting 9.5 frames per second on Windows 10. It favors Windows 10, runs better on there. You're only getting 4.2 frames per second in SteamOS 2.0. But either way, the game is unplayable at maximum settings at that high resolution with the GTX 660. But again, they're just doing benchmarks and running tests. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, and honestly, I was thinking the same thing too. Oh, Rich, it's a new operating system and you only showed a couple games. Maybe they just need to work the bugs out. Maybe if you try other games, then maybe they'll run better in SteamOS. Well, Ars Technica even tried Source Engine games developed by Valve in SteamOS, and guess what? They still ran better in Windows 10. Portal, almost a 40 frame per second difference favoring Windows 10 over SteamOS. And it goes on. Team Fortress 2, you're getting like 16 frames per second more. The only game that there was almost like on the same level in terms of frame rate is Left 4 Dead 2. It's only running 1 frame per second faster in Windows 10. But Dota 2, you're almost getting 10 frames per second more in Windows 10 over SteamOS. I just showed you here 6 different games, and all of the games run better in Windows 10. I mean, come on, it can't be that Ars Technica only picked games that run better in Windows 10. There's something else going on. Valve, the whole Steam Machine, SteamOS movement has been an absolute epic disaster. And SteamOS running games crappier than Windows does is like the big cherry on top of the shit sundae. You have a whole wide array of convoluted pieces of hardware that run from like 400 and something bucks to thousands of dollars, which confuse people. I'm hearing very mixed reviews. I have one. I'm going to do my own take on it. I have one. The Steam controller, hearing very mixed things on it. Hearing it's buggy and it's tough to play first person games because of all these different things. I'm going to try it out. Maybe I'll love it and I'll be totally unbiased about it, but I'm hearing mixed things about the Steam controller. And now SteamOS. I'm not hearing anything really good about it. I'm hearing that it's buggy. I'm hearing that it just doesn't offer enough features. And I was hoping against hope, okay, SteamOS is limited. It's kind of superfluous. Yeah, I understand Valve wants to make their own operating system to give developers an extra option outside of Windows. Okay, maybe with all of its issues, maybe it'll run games better. I've heard all throughout the years that Linux would be the ideal platform to develop games for, but you're not even giving people that. I was hoping that would be the one thing. Okay, maybe we'll get an advantage. You'll get better frame rates with games running in SteamOS, but that's not even the case. Games are running significantly crappier in SteamOS than they do in Windows. The whole Steam Machine concept, SteamOS concept, I'm going to call it now, just like Linus Tech Tips did. Unless they change everything overnight and restructure the whole Steam Machine concept and project, is dead on arrival. There's nothing appealing to the average consumer. Minus nerds like me who love the small form factor PCs. There's nothing appealing to the general consumer who has consoles to jump over to Steam machines. There's nothing there. You're not getting better performance than Windows. There's way too many options with the hardware. The controller is convoluted. You've literally... And I'm so surprised because Valve is such a forward-thinking company usually. You've literally failed in every aspect of Steam machines. There's nothing good about Steam machines at all. Oh man, what a shame. It could have been so much. If they rethought and really streamlined the whole Steam machine concept, I know I keep saying that phrase, if they just came out with one machine, made it like $600, $700 with mid-range gaming hardware in it, kind of like what I have here with the GTX 960 and the Zotac EN 970. I think they would have nailed it out of the park. You have one machine, you have one platform, make it affordable so people aren't confused, but they look to solve a problem that didn't exist with Steam machines. It's such a messy idea, and it didn't need to be. And the game's running crappier in SteamOS just really put the final nail in the coffin of Steam machines, which is depressing. This is Rich, Review Tech USA, signing out. Have a good one.